that kind introduction, and thank you all for the opportunity to take part in this meeting as you celebrate another successful year of Kentucky Co-ops. I understand that earlier today you got to hear from a dynamic speaker, Brendan Christmas, so I'll do my best to hold up my end of the bargain, I assure you. I also want to thank Chris Perry for his leadership of this indispensable statewide association. I want to recognize Bob Perry for his incredible career that went all the way from custodian to C-suite. Congratulations on your upcoming retirement and your Only in America story. Now, I'm inspired by the rich history of this organization, of the 26 member cooperatives, and of each of you who powers rural Kentucky communities every single day. Traveled all across our Commonwealth in this campaign, and I am so impressed by your ability to bring Kentuckians of all regions and backgrounds together behind a single goal to improve this place we call home. Now, as Greg noted, I grew up in E-Town, and my parents owned a coffee shop. It was called Zach's Coffee, and one of my first jobs was brewing coffee and wiping tables from them, and then, depending on how risk-averse my parents were, they would sometimes let me make cappuccinos and lattes, but that was very few and infrequent, I assure you. But it was a great way to get to know my community. You got to hear people's stories, both the celebrations and the pain, and you got to know your neighbors. It was an authentic hometown Kentucky experience. There was a sense of pride in hard work, certainly a value in a person's word, and compassion for our neighbors. Now, I took what I learned from my parents' shop and went to the University of Louisville and walked onto the football team. Now, I did play there, but play is a very generous term, I assure you. I spent a lot of time rooting for folks that were much more talented than I was. But I graduated from undergrad and got to be a part of a Liberty Bowl and the Gator Bowl and the Orange Bowl, and learned about hard work, perseverance, and determination. Graduated from undergrad and then stayed at the University of Louisville to attend the Brandeis School of Law, clerked for a federal judge, and then worked in the United States Senate to help confirm Neil Gorsuch to the United States Supreme Court, who was President Trump's first conservative justice to that highest court. And in 2019, as Greg also noted, I was fortunate to win this office as Attorney General and serve as the first Black American here to hold statewide office in Kentucky's history. And it's been an honor to serve in this capacity. And maybe just a few weeks after starting office, I met my soulmate, Mackenzie. We attended at that time Sojourn Midtown campus here in Louisville, and we're a couple of rows from each other, and I caught her eye, or she caught my eye, one way or the other. And from that moment on, we've been inseparable. And as was noted earlier, we did welcome Theodore, our son, into the world in 2022. And he is now 19 months. And as many of you all can attest to, boys in that 19-month range, they are exploring everything. But there is not a day in which, because of Mackenzie and because of Theodore, I don't work as Attorney General to make sure that this Commonwealth is the best version of itself. And now I get to stand before you as the Republican nominee of governor here in the Commonwealth, and it is an equally incredible honor to do that. And this journey has been one that has been amazing and equally humbling, to stand in this role as the Republican nominee, but also to serve as the 51st Attorney General. But I know that it all began in my parents' coffee shop. And like so many small businesses in rural Kentucky, Their store was powered by an electric co-op, Nolan RECC. You kept the lights on as you do across rural Kentucky, and you power the dreams of so many working families by providing affordable and reliable electricity. Now, everyone in this room knows that a cooperative is so much more than a utility company. The co-op is a part of our community and a vital and rich part of Kentucky's history. You lead beautification projects to make our hometowns wonderful places to live. You award scholarships to help send kids to college. You drive growth and help small businesses thrive. And you celebrate our heritage and traditions in Kentucky Living Magazine. And I certainly want to offer my congratulations on your 75 years of this flagship publication. At every step, the cooperatives are there for communities across this Commonwealth. Some politicians could take a lesson or two from the co-ops. Show up for every Kentucky community and never stop working until all the power is restored and all the problems are solved. On sunny days and when the clouds gather, we know that our Kentucky cooperatives, that you all will be there. And I'm speaking to the choir in many ways, but over the last few years, we've seen our share of challenges. And through it all, the men and women of Kentucky's electric co-ops have been there to clear debris, to climb poles, and to restore power and the sense of security that comes along with it. Now, I sometimes see folks in Frankfort on TV taking credit for what you all have done, especially after the cleanup of a storm. And I think to myself, did they climb that pole? Did they saw those limbs? Of course not. And trust me, I certainly know who turns the lights on. So thank you for always being there, for keeping our lights on and our communities connected, for delivering mutual aid to other regions and even other states. We've often seen news coverage or co-ops, trucks heading to other places to help fellow Americans. Thank you for going all the way to the last mile and heroically serving your neighbors in the places we call home. And whenever I talk to folks within this organization, they're always proud to tell me of the cooperative spirit, the core beliefs of community, integrity, and service. It's what has helped you succeed for more than 7 decades, and what has spurred growth in regions all across Kentucky. Co-ops are grassroots democratic organizations, and service stays at the center of what you do. The cooperative spirit is at the very heart of our Kentucky values. What you all talk about is what I've often talked about on the campaign trail. Values such as faith, family, and community. Now, unfortunately, again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Those values are under attack. The coastal, liberal, and urban elites have shown there's disdain and disregard for our way of life. Now, while we are focused on keeping power to our communities, making sure that we're raising our kids in safe environments and making ends meet, they're obsessed with pronouns, radical ideologies, and the Green New Deal. Let's just say, I have very strong doubts that anyone in Hollywood is connected to a co-op. But at the end of the day, the elites want to pick winners and losers. They've got corporate media, Ivy League universities, and Wall Street on their side. Even Bud Light has gone off the deep end. They want to enforce their agenda that would make Kentucky's energy sector less efficient, less reliable, and more dependent on foreign countries. Unfortunately, one of their out-of-touch allies currently resides in our governor's mansion. Now, Kentucky is an energy state. There's no doubt about that. We are the 7th largest generator of coal in the country, and because of that, we typically have some of the lowest energy costs in the nation. That's been driven a lot by our coal miners. They have powered not only this Commonwealth, but this country to greatness. But how do those coastal elites think us? Well, they've waged an all-out assault on our homegrown energy sources. States around the country, including even our neighbor, Virginia, have imposed arbitrary benchmarks that would abandon tried and true resources and turn the energy market into an open experiment. Our affordable and reliable energy is one of our strongest advantages, especially around our surrounding states. We cannot and we will not gamble with our energy future. We have to maintain that competitive advantage. But in order to do that, we've got to stand strong for Kentucky values. We need Kentucky leaders who are willing to fight back against an administration in Washington, D.C. that wants to destroy our way of life. Joe Biden has made no buts about it. He wants to destroy everything that we stand for, the coal industry, the fossil fuels industry, by 2035, and wants to insert into our daily lives the Green New Deal. And while Andy Beshear might try to wipe his hands and be silent, he has certainly embraced Joe Biden's agenda. He has vetoed bills that would have assured our reliable energy. He failed to stand up to the EPA as it radicalized the Clean Air Act. He refuses to stand up for our jobs, our reliable energy sources, and our values. He shut his ears, as many of you in this room have sounded the alarm about the future resiliency of our electrical grid. Green schemes and wishful thinking aren't enough to protect our energy future. The climate activists may want all of us to start plugging in electric cars tomorrow, but everybody in this room knows that that's just simply not possible. Andy Beshear campaigns on empty promises, but he governs on Joe Biden's agenda. It's a disappointing legacy that doesn't represent the cooperative spirit or who we are as Kentuckians. As Attorney General, my office has teamed up with other attorneys general across the country, and certainly our co-ops, to protect Kentucky values. In fact, after reading Tony Campbell's letter in Kentucky Living, our office jumped into the fight. We got to work promoting reliability as the key to Kentucky's future. I submitted a brief, along with a lot of my colleagues, to the United States Supreme Court to take on Joe Biden's EPA, and we won. I've been proud to lead the fight against the ESG movement that would sacrifice our savings for far-left radical ideology. And we've put big banks on notice. If they want to do business here in Kentucky, they've got to put your interest, the interest of our teachers and our firefighters and our law enforcement officials and our retirees ahead of their own. If those banks want to wage war on reliable and affordable energy, then they better stay in New York and California, because that will not happen here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And we've cut the green activists down to size. And I'm going to certainly keep fighting to protect our way of life. Because let me be clear, the radical climate activism is an assault on more than just our businesses and our energy bills. It happens to be a fundamental threat to our way of life. You see, even if they close every coal plant, put every miner out of work, and ban every combustion engine, that's not their goal. They will not stop. They'll keep inserting radical gender ideologies into our kids' classrooms. They'll keep trying to let boys play in girls' sports. They'll keep cozying up to anti-Christian hate groups that make a mockery of our deeply held faith and values. Suffice it to say that they will keep coming. Again, they won't stop. But you and I in this room, and I know folks all across our Commonwealth, have an opportunity to put a line in the sand. And we can be forceful in defense of our Kentucky values and our Kentucky energy. We must be strong in protection of every county here in Kentucky, all of our small towns. We must be unwavering in our support for our hardworking teachers, for the brave men and women of our law enforcement community, and the rural Kentuckians who get up and go to work every day to not only sustain themselves, but to ultimately sustain their families. We've got to look out for the folks who play by the rules, who pay their taxes, and just want to leave better opportunities behind for their children. We've got to stand up for the backbone of America and for all of our people's fundamental freedoms. For the people we serve, for the communities that we call home, and for the children we hope will have a better life than we do today. Now, throughout this campaign, and there's roughly 93 days between now and the November 7th election, I'm going to talk about what I can do to help keep Kentuckians' money in their wallets. I've already unveiled a public safety plan to keep our communities safer, to make sure that businesses can grow and flourish. And I'm also going to lay out a vision for how we stand up and defend Kentucky values. Again, our faith, family, and freedom. I'm going to speak about the pride of our communities, our co-ops, and our Commonwealth. Because the families that I talk to don't just care about how to make a living, they care about why they choose to make a living here in our Commonwealth. My administration will be your ally to preserve affordable, reliable, and resilient energy in Kentucky. And we are ready to hit the ground running on day one. This is the key difference between my campaign and the current governor. In Frankfort, he stands alone as an island. He embraces Joe Biden, and he lectures from a podium in Frankfort. Neither is getting it done for you or our Kentucky families. He has no serious or productive relationships with our General Assembly. That means that no matter how large the commitment or promise is from this governor, he can never keep it because he has no relationships within our General Assembly. And on top of that, he spent all of his time vetoing the legislation that's been passed by our General Assembly. And he's worn out that veto pen, and I would argue he's worn out his welcome. As governor, I'm going to do everything I can to deliver for you. I've shown time and time again that I've got the relationships with our legislature to get big and ambitious things done. And those relationships are only strengthened by the fact that I've now asked Robbie Mills, state senator from Henderson, to be my running mate. And you all know Robbie. He's helped carry some of the bills that you all care about. And he has a long-standing commitment to our energy sector. And that includes having passed legislation to protect the reliability of our grid. But alongside Robbie, I want to work to make sure we streamline the rate-making process and modernize infrastructure permitting. Instead of wasting money on bureaucratic red tape, we should lower costs for both co-ops and consumers while upholding that gold standard of safety and reliability. I'll appoint members to the PSC who reflect reality and share Kentucky values. I'll balance the drive for economic development with a respect for the territorial integrity of every cooperative. And we're going to protect our coal miners, stand strong against the Biden administration, and stand up to the coastal elites that want to destroy our fossil fuels industry. And I hope everyone in this room, as you have for decades, will continue to immerse yourselves in this fight. Because it is a battle not only, again, for Kentucky values, but for an energy strategy that embraces what you all daily work to do, that is provide reliable and low-cost energy to our communities. And you do this not out of self-interest. You do this to make sure that every family in Kentucky has an opportunity to flourish and thrive, whether they are going on a 9-to-5 or if they own a small business, whatever it might be. You all in this room stand at the intersection of making this Commonwealth the best and brightest version of itself. I also want you to know that in our administration, you will always have a seat at the table. So again, don't accept leaders who make empty promises, who can't accomplish things because they don't have the relationships in Frankfort to do so. Pick a governor who can not only make sure that you have a seat at the table, but has a relationship with our legislature and has the ability to keep promises for a brighter and better Kentucky. I've often heard members in this room talk about your power is our people, and I couldn't agree more. That is the truth. Kentuckians are resilient. We've persevered and we've made it through so much. And you all in this room recognize this. And I commit to you today that I'm going to be a governor for the men, women, and children of all 120 counties, because I understand that our power is derived from we the people. And we the people have the opportunity to make this Commonwealth a shining city on a hill, a model, an example for the rest of the nation to follow. That is what is within our capacity. If we're willing to change directions and set this Commonwealth apart from the rest of the country, not only for this decade, but for decades to come. I hope you'll join us. May God bless you and God bless Kentucky. Thank you so much.